Well, things escalated quickly. I mean, boy, things got out of hand fast. Been meaning to talk to you, Hangman Page. You might want to find a loved one or a relative nearby and lay low for a while. Because Hangman Page just burnt down a dude's house.
He certainly did.
I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Luco in DAD. Welcome to the AEW Dynamite review edition of the WrestleTalk podcast. The last one for a while. We got it wrong last week. The last one for a while. I'm moving over to Raw.
We didn't get it wrong. What we said was, is next week the last? Is this the last one? I mean, no, it's next week is the last one.
Should we do the rest of the show like this?
The whole
with
time,
our hands on our shoulders?
Mm-hmm.
No! If you haven't already, please press the thumbs up button, give us a subscribe, leave a comment down below with what you thought of this episode, and send in an Omegachat to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one over $5. And also, the moderators should be spamming this in the comments as well. No Rolls Barred, our very friendly board game club channel. They're going on tour. There's live dates in the UK, in London, in Birmingham, in London, and in Manchester. So go and get your tickets for those over there. We'll have a little ad later on to show you what's going on there and to get more excited.
So, I did not get to say this in my edited review that I did earlier, because I was doing so much writing about the Kevin Kelly story with the boys that my review when I wrote it on the tube, so it wasn't like, I don't think it was like the best work that I've ever done. And it was only as I was making this podcast video that I thought I really missed a joke there. So I'll say it now. This angle really added some heat to the feud. Because it was fire.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
But it did. I don't know how much hotter the feud could have been, though. Maybe they didn't even need to set the house on fire.
Yeah, actually, they could have just done a normal contract signing.
Yeah.
Still would have been going ballistic for it anyway.
This was Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland closing the episode of Dynamite. I was watching the 6-person tag that preceded it, and I thought, this is going to go a long time. Totally forgot about this segment.
They announced there was a contract signing coming up, and they were like, at 40 minutes before the top of the hour, it was like, and here's the main event. I was like, man, there's going to be a big angle at the end of this show.
Totally. I was like, Mox is going to turn on Danielson. And then, like, that match just ended. I was like, maybe they ran shot. Oh, it's the contract. Of course it is. It's the biggest feud outside the world title. So Swerve comes down. He's ready to sign the contract, like they were supposed to. But earlier in the night, like after the first segment, they played this really nice and well-produced video of Swerve talking about how he signed his big money contract with Tony Khan. It's worth so much money, and it means he can go back to his family home that he was raised in and buy it.
Yeah.
And he told some stories about his time there growing up, what his mum would do for them, playing in the garden.
Yeah.
Really good.
Really, really nice. If I was to be hypercritical, I wish this had been played last week, because I use this story a lot because I think this is a good example of just adding a MacGuffin in and then asking you to care about it. Mm-hmm. During the Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle in TNA feud, there is an episode where Kurt Angle is looking to get his rematch from Samoa Joe, and Samoa Joe won't give it to him. And then on one episode of Impact, Samoa Joe shows up with a girlfriend. And at the end of the show, Kurt Angle puts that girlfriend in an ankle lock, and Joe gives her the match, and then you never see the girlfriend ever again. And it's like, oh, you were just here as a MacGuffin to set up a reason for us to do it. So really, the house was just a MacGuffin. Like, it was set up early in the night to be like, isn't this house lovely? And then at the end of it, it's burnt down. So there's not a huge like emotional attachment to the house for us as viewers. It means something to Swerve, probably more than Joe's girlfriend did in Impact, because I'd
moved on the next week.
Moved on the next week. But I think if you were to be hypercritical of it, I think you could say that you could have set up the MacGuffin earlier as opposed to doing it as a one-night thing.
I know, because like Swerve never talks about houses. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I actually had no problem with it. But as soon as this bit happened, I was like, someone better do something to that house.
I wrote in my notes, oh, Hangman's going to burn that place to the ground.
Did you write burn?
Where are my notes that I wrote here? Swerve Strickland has a video about buying his old childhood home. He's now successful enough to do it. Oh, Hangman is going to burn that down.
Mm-hmm. I just thought, well, he's going to home invade it. Like, Swerve's going to be there, or one of Swerve's loved ones is going to be there, and Hangman's going to come in and do something like that. I did not think burning, because that was just beyond my budgetary head.
I honestly probably wrote it down as a joke, because I didn't think they were going to burn a house down.
So in the main event bit, of course, Swerve comes out, and Hangman doesn't. And they play his music again. He doesn't come out.
It's clearly a technical error.
And they cut to Hangman on the Tron, and he's walking around a house. And I was immediately like, yes! You set up the thing and you're doing the thing.
Yep.
But I didn't realize he was cavalierly chucking a gas canister. And I don't like you don't really get it revealed until like 30 seconds into him talking.
It's a little bit into it, yeah, because he's just walking around talking, and then all of a sudden you just sort of see this flash of the canister as he's like flicking water around, and you can hear the crowd go, "Uh-oh."
Yeah, and the sound of the splash.
Yeah.
It's really well done. And Hangman's talking about what he imagines Swerve's childhood to have been like, how his dad would have been watching TV over there, probably didn't love him.
Yeah.
And this is when he's like, oh God, he's covering the place with lighter fluid.
I loved the line where it was like, you talk a lot about how you've come to my house, how you sat outside my house and watched me take my pregnant wife to the hospital, but I've never known where you've lived. And I've looked. Like, I've tried. I never knew where you lived because I wanted to get my revenge. And you slipped up because you let me know where you were or you have been. And that was it. It was like Swerve made a mistake. He got so wrapped up in signing this contract, announcing that this has meant that he was able to buy a childhood home. And he gave Hangman some ammunition. And now Hangman is running with that ammunition.
And last week, after their promo segment together, Hangman walked off because Swerve just asked him, what sort of man are you going to be? And it seemed to get to Hangman. You almost thought, maybe he'll start taking the path to the light side. Nope. He talked about that here. Hangman said, recalled the previous week, you asked me to make a decision between hate and peace and this and that. I've decided I want to burn your house to the ground.
Interesting. I hadn't actually put these two together until you started talking about it then. That whole, like, you should go home and be a family man. You should just go home and be a father. So him telling me was like, your father hated you. I love my kids.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a good father. Your father didn't like you because you're a bad person. I thought this was such a good promo.
Such a good promo. And then the cherry on top is the best part.
Yeah.
Hangman walks outside. He's just, making a little trail of gas behind him. And he's got an armchair outside. Just sits in the armchair. And, you tell yourself what happened. He's dragged that armchair outside for maximum sinisterness. He's got a little tumbler of whiskey, you said it was, which means Hangman's drinking again.
Sure is.
Never a good thing for his character. And he just nonchalantly, next level villain style, because Hangman has been unhinged. He has been manic. He has been wild. It's Swerve who's been cool. But here the dynamics were totally flipped, where Hangman is cool as can be. This is revenge in its chilliest form. Yeah. Whereas Swerve in the ring, when he realizes what's happening, is crumbling. His head's in his hands. And then Hangman just lights. Lighter, was it a match?
He had like a sort of a bit of lint maybe.
Very Joker-esque.
Yeah.
Trying to explode the hospital.
Yeah, not lint. Lint's what you get in your pocket after you've done your washing. You've left a receipt in there. But yeah, so like a firelighter style thing.
And he lit it. And even when he dropped the match on the ground, I was like, how are they going to do this? Is there stock footage on a green screen? It doesn't look like a green screen. Is it going to cut to a separate shot of an explosion? Hot damn. They burnt a house.
Yeah. And Hangman Page, and it's so awesome. Here's one of the great things that Hangman Page does in this moment, because it's nothing. The table gets caught on fire that his tumbler was on, and he doesn't flinch.
Yeah,
he does not flinch. He is just dead behind the eyes as he's just drinking this whiskey, not even looking at the fire, because that's not the important thing. He doesn't want to watch it burn to the ground. He just wants to know that Swerve knows that he's burnt it to the ground.
A lot of pressure on that man to not flinch. That's an expensive one-take shot we've got, so well done, Hangman.
It's like the end of at the end of Friday the 13th Part 7, when they blow that house up and they're like, we've got one shot at this because we're gonna blow this sucker up.
Everybody knows that anecdote. But yeah, I criticised, joked at you earlier for Swerve. It's not like Swerve says he has a house a lot. I didn't get the sort of poetic meaning of this until Hangman himself says, I'm going to burn down Swerve's house. And it's literal and it's metaphorical because that's Swerve's big chant. Whose house? Swerve's house. Yeah. It was just a perfect angle in sort of concept, in execution, and in building the match for the pay-per-view.
Absolutely loved it. We got our predictions for All Out going up later today over on the WrestleTalk news channel, so make sure you go over to that. So we talk a little bit about like our predictions for this, but spoilers, like I've gone for Hangman to win that match. I want to see Swerve doing a promo from the house.
From the burnt house.
Like after, he's lost this match All Out, a segment on Dynamite, or a sit-down interview from the house.
You know what would have been good? I don't know if they're going to do this. If there was a thing, and this lends more credence to your idea of establishing the house over a longer period. Maybe there was a bit of that house that was particularly important. Maybe it was a swing that hung off the tree, a tree limb. And in the match on Sunday, somehow Hangman manages to
turns into a bracelet.
Yeah, he gets the charred wooden plank that was the seat of that swing,
and uses it as a weapon. Clocks him in the head. I mean, it would be awesome.
But I can't do that with the armchair. Lower the armchair into the cage.
I wouldn't hate it. I think it would be a bit hokey. Someone pointed out in the comments there the bit that I think really made me laugh about this, because it was just so like sinister the way that he did it, when he went sort of like full Dion Dublin mode, just looking around, Holmes under the hammer, and he just went low ceilings.
Wow, Dion Dublin got a reference on this show. I particularly enjoyed the crowd who chanted, "This is arson," afterwards. Very good.
That's amazing.
Excellent. An absolutely perfect go-home angle.
I cannot wait for that match.
Let's see what everyone has to say in the Omegachats, WrestleTalk.com/support. Send in your thoughts over there. We'll read out every single one, over $5. Eddie Edwards says, the minute I saw that house, I thought to myself, welp, that's getting burned down. Really looking forward to the cage match. Someone's going to die. By the way, Luke, did you ever get round to listening to Gunship? Love you guys and all the content.
I did not. Sorry about that. Sorry, we always said like I get recommended stuff for Monday Night War. It's like if I don't get recommended on the morning I'm recording, it often just it'll slip my mind. So my apologies, but I'll check them out after this. Also, it's nice to know that Eddie Edwards watches the show.
I was going to say, do you think it's the Eddie Edwards?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, God, I was obsessed with Eddie Edwards and David Richards back in the day. Noshua4 says, hi guys, man, I wonder how Swerve is going to explain how the fire started to the home insurance people.
Well, surely he should.
It's documented.
It's documented. Got video proof that it wasn't him that burned it down.
Yeah, and if you go down that logical pathway, Hangman's getting arrested. A question about All Out. What does the unsanctioned stip add to the steel cage match? They built this feud incredibly. Can't wait to see the chaos.
Well, what it does is it just means that AEW, as an entity, as a company, are not responsible or liable for anything that happens in the match.
Yeah.
So that's where the sort of the up the ante of the Stips is. They were like, well, these guys can literally do whatever they want because it's nothing to do with us anymore.
And also, it allows you to put it as the main event without undermining the world title.
Which is why you and I said after the All In show, I thought it was going to be a lights out match to begin with, because that is a way for it to be the main event.
I would like to. I can't remember how often they've done this, but usually when I've seen lights out matches before, like in Ring of Honor, the idea of it being, well, we don't sanction this. You cannot have our referees wearing official shirts and stuff. You don't get the same level of production. I hope they do that.
They didn't in the early days. They used to actually literally turn the lights off. And they Justin Roberts would say, like, just so you all know, this is not a sanctioned match. The show is over now, so you feel free to go home, but there is something else that's going to happen now, but it's nothing to do with us. Lights go off, lights come back on to be like, we're telling you to go home now, but if you stay around, that's your doing.
This is the naughty bit in the car park afterwards, which I really like as the presentation. Andy Sandbox says, say it with me, Hangman did nothing wrong. I saw one comment that said Hangman did nothing wrong. Apart from maybe that one thing now. Here's Swerve, who cheated at the majority of his opportunities, could never pin Hanger, broke into his home with his family present, threatened his child, then practically threatened his pregnant wife. This has been a legendary feud, and I can't wait for the real face of the program to get his win finally. Love this so much. Everything about this segment was perfect. Just flipping great wrestling content.
I just want to say, I don't think you threatened that child. In fact, he left a T-shirt for that child. That's a gift.
Yeah, bit of merch.
That merch is expensive.
Thrarin says, I have a guest staying with us who's new to wrestling. After the closing segment, they were so shocked. I immediately told them about the camera cut. Then Paige burned a facade. They were in shock. Much respect to the carpentry crew. My guest had no idea, so that's how it's done.
Yeah. So I think Corey Brennan of Fightful Select's got an interview with the guy who did all the special effects for us.
So it wasn't a full house. It was the front of a house with sort of no 3D part to it.
Camera trickery, man.
You know, it's got... I've worked in TV and studied film for 20 years, and I thought they burnt a real house down.
It might just be because I went to go see Alien Romulus last night, which has got lots of practical effects in there. I was so distracted by one of the genuinely awful bits of CGI I've seen all this year that I didn't even notice then there were really cool practical effects in there because I was so distracted by this dreadful CGI over here. But yeah, long live practical effects.
Jimmy G, Menberg for 35 months in a row, says, solid show tonight. Looking forward to All Out, Lights Out, Steel Cage with Hangman Page. Sign me up. AEW loves fire currently. Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you can't set... Well, you can set someone on fire, and might as well set a house on fire.
Jack Perry was burnt with fire. Darby Allin used a flamethrower on that go-home angle. But then before then, it was Eddie Kingston teasing fire.
Jack Perry teased fire at All In.
Lots of fireballs. That's why Joe's off TV.
Yeah.
Is it? No, that's why Hook was off TV.
Yeah. I guess Mojo got run through a wall.
Yeah.
In one of my favourite moments of TV all year. He just went through a little cardboard wall. So good.
Yeah, they obviously used the best cardboard on the house Hangman burned down. And Andy Sandbox finally Menberg for 12 months. I loved Prince Nana shouting, why would he do this? Like, come on, Nana. Hilarious. Nana is so good.
Yeah.
As to just set dressing to this.
I know you've always been a big Nana guy because you're House of Truth.
Yeah, well, it was... no, it wasn't the House of Truth.
Because that's Truth Martini.
It was... Oh, what was Prince Nana leading? They did join forces with R.D. Evans, who was a lawyer gimmick, who's now with TNA. I can't remember. The Embassy.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, which is why they were Mogul Embassy. Yeah. Because I remember you have always been a bit of a Nana guy, and I've always sung his praises. Remember when he came in, I was like, are you bringing in Prince Nana of all people?
I was also confused. I mean, I love Prince Nana because there was this one angle that me and my friends used to do all the time where he's talking about how, I think he sold part of the embassy out. I can't remember the details, but he just sings, we're in the money, we're in the money. And he just goes, do, 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 do. Right, before we get on with the full play-by-play review of AEW Dynamite, as we said at the start of this show, No Rolls Barred is going on tour. We're running house shows, like a wrestling promotion. Here's an advert to tell you more.
Well. Looking for these? 2 tickets to see all your favourite cast members and Sullivan on the No Rolls Barred live tour? What? Did you think I wouldn't be here as well? Did you really think you could get away from me? You poor, sweet, gullible fool. It was all part of my plan. Think about it. I've been following you for years. That old woman at the bus stop, that was me. The 6-foot-tall, beautiful seductress you bumped into in a small independent sandwich shop that you popped into in Croydon. I was stood next to her. All those phone calls, asking if you're satisfied with your gas and electricity bills. Don't you see? I've been planning this for years. I've been watching you, preempting your every move, predicting your every decision. And now it's too late. I've always been one step ahead. There is no escape. from No Rolls Barred Live! And that's because we're going on tour. No matter where you are in the UK, we'll be there. And by the UK, we of course mean London, Birmingham and Manchester. That's right, we'll be in Manchester on the 13th of October, London on the 15th and 16th, and Birmingham on the 17th. And each London show will be different, so you can come to both. You must come to both. We'll have an exciting lineup of all your cast favourites, and Sullivan, all to be announced very soon, so keep your eye on our socials. Best be quick though, tickets are selling fast. The Manchester date has already sold over 40% of tickets, so don't be a complete barn pot. Get your tickets now!
I said get your tickets now!
The link is in the video description below, and the moderators should be posting it in the chat. Please go over and support No Rolls Barred. It's our first ever sort of live tour thing we've ever done as a company. We need your help. So if you're a fan of No Rolls Barred, which I know a lot of you are, please do go and get a ticket and come out and meet the gang. Because when we did it over All In Weekend, it's so nice to meet all of you guys in person.
Yeah.
So this episode of AEW Dynamite opened with Daniel Garcia and MJF. So Garcia comes out to the ring and he calls out Max. Max is in a top area of the crowd, not like a skybox, but he's in the crowd bit.
Oh man, Garcia was all like, he was hard and ready to satisfy the fetish that he has.
Hard and ready. And Max has like a Bond villain. He's in a white suit with a red wine. A lot of big comic book supervillain style poses this week.
I suppose, We're supposed to be to Sheeta later on.
Garcia says everything about Max is fake. The tan, the makeup on his acne, the trip to Turkey for a hair transplant.
Has Max had one?
So this has been a running joke for about a month now when Carl Fletcher brought it up ahead of their match.
Yeah. The only reason, because I've never met one who's had one. I don't know. I can't tell.
The fakest thing, though, about MJF is his love of the fans and AEW. And then Garcia started to talk about how he wants to hurt everyone Max loves and tells like this fictional, hypothetical story for the future when Max picks up his ugly baby from when he's finally found a woman who will stay with him longer for a year. He'll get a tinge down his neck because Garcia would have ended his career. Mm-hmm. And like you said last week, I was like, how many family retirement-based storylines and motivations is too many?
Yeah, because, in the main event angle, it's your father thought that you sucked. And here it's like, and actually MJF's like, your mother sucks. Mm. And here it's like, when you're a family man, you'll suck. Yeah.
So it's just, I do think AEW should probably rein in some of the promo motivation on this.
I agree. I think it's wrestling worldwide as well. Like AEW got it particularly bad, but when they did it in the Gunther Randy Orton feud, I was like, this doesn't need this. Like, this absolutely does not need to have this motivation in there. And in some cases, I don't think this needs the motivation either. Like, it works in the Swerve Hangman feud because that is about family sitting on Hangman's side of things. I don't think it's needed here.
This should be just driven by Garcia hating MJF because MJF tried to ruin his career.
Yeah.
For something as insignificant as MJF feeling like the fans don't love him as much anymore.
Yeah.
That's the motivation.
Exactly. Because that's MJF. I thought this was really, really cool where he was like, I was doing you a favor by nearly ending your career because you don't want to be a pro wrestler. These fans won't love you forever because they loved me for a long time until I got too big. And then they decided they hated me now. So what character motivation for Max is like, no, I'm saving you by making sure you're not a pro wrestler anymore. Yeah. So you don't have to go through the heartbreak that I went through. And like later on at the end of it, he was just like, I'm going to save your career. I'm going to protect you by putting you in a wheelchair.
It's cool. Yeah. That's good motivation. So Max then made a joke about Garcia's mum tending to a lot of men in her bed, and Garcia breaks through a load of Max's goons, and he gets up to MJF, but he clocks him, not with a diamond ring.
No, I think it was with the wine bottle.
Oh, was it with the wine bottle? And it busts open Garcia, and MJF says, I'm going to send you to paradise, and then kisses him on the bloody wound. And you could see like blood on his lips.
Yeah.
Ugh. It was a fine angle, I thought. The crowd weren't super hot for it.
No, they popped for the moments of like, you've got a fake haircut, and things like that, or like your mum sleeps with a lot of lads, and but overall, I thought this was a solid go home angle. but not like a killer go home angle. I thought the one they did last week was better.
Next up, backstage, Ospreay talks about being an honorary member of the conglomeration to go up against the Blackpool Combat Club later on, and Mark Briscoe did his usual hype promo.
See, Kyle was mouthing along behind him, like in sync with everything that he was saying.
It was also because Mark tells this story about how he rang up Kyle on the phone, and Kyle mouthed his bits on the phone. Yeah, they're very good.
Mark's great.
Totally turning on him. Okada then had a match against Carl Fletcher for the Continental Championship.
Yeah. So I made fun of this on yesterday's WrestleTalk News because AEW have removed the win-loss records from the roster page on the website. Oh. It's still on TV because it's like I was looking at it, it's still on the lower third on TV, but they've removed it from the website. And I was like, this is just one further step that they're taking away from kind of what they set up in 2019, which is the ranking system, wins and losses mean something, this, that, and the other.
Which went away, and then they made a bit of circumstance about bringing it back earlier this year.
And then never referenced it again, and no one's asked about it. So they're like, can't complain about the rankings if we don't do the rankings. So I made fun of this match where I was like, they used to say that wins and losses matter, but clearly they don't anymore. Case in point, Carl Fletcher's getting a shot at the Continental Championship, despite the fact he lost on Dynamite last week, and has lost a bunch of times on Dynamite. But quite a few people, pointed out to me in the comments, he did beat Tomohiro Ishii on Collision.
Yeah, on Saturday,
So he's got one win. So now he's got a Continental Championship match here.
I think anyone who's with Don Callis in a faction, I just buy them getting championship shots because Don
he's worked his magic.
1 second away from going, I booked Jericho versus Omega at Wrestle Kingdom and blah, 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 blah.
Have you seen he's doing color commentary for Maple Leaf Pro?
I'm not surprised.
With Morrow. So it's Morrow and Callis as the commentary team.
Wow.
That sounds like a great commentary team.
Or maybe one that's too powerful.
There's too many insider references.
So this match was extraordinary, I thought. I think Carl Fletcher has been fantastic in his singles matches throughout the year, but the ones recently, he's stepped up significantly. That as sort of someone I can now see as a breakout mid-card babyface star.
Yeah.
The match against Max, the match against Ishii, this match against Okada, his babyface fire is great. And that spot he does when he jumps over the barricade, takes them out in the crowd, and then poses with the crowd, it's gotten him really over.
The crowd was super into Fletcher.
And I thought this was a bad crowd based on the first segment with the talking. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, no, they just want to see good wrestling.
They want to see the wrestling.
But as great as Fletcher is as a babyface, Okada's terrible as a heel.
What?
Everyone wants to cheer him.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they booed the finish because it was the low blow and the Rainmaker. But like, it's often hard to boo Okada when he's doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's like it's every heel's problem from 2005 to present day.
That I remember when Beer Money would do that. Oh, beer money, and they were heels, and people did it so much. Wow, we got to turn babyface now.
Well, a lot of veterans used to have a go at younger wrestlers by you're supposed to be a heel. It's why Max is like veterans will point to MJF and be like, he's the only good heel we have in pro wrestling now because he doesn't do stuff that gets him cheered. He like purposefully doesn't do the things that would get him cheered so he can get booed. But a lot of heels will do senton flips or do dives and do poses.
Okada's not doing senton flips.
And people like, but he will do like the middle finger because that's now gotten over almost like a babyface thing when he does his Rainmaker pose. So yeah, it's the cool heel, right? So it's it's the NWO-ification of the heels,
which is what the elite are.
Yeah,
really. Okada pulls the referee in the way during the finish, even though Fletcher's on top, allows Okada to hit a low blow and a Rainmaker to win. Really, really good match. Went quite close to the 20-minute time call as well.
Yeah, there was 1 minute remaining when the finish came down.
Yeah, and I wish the Claudio match didn't happen because I think Fletcher going to a draw would have been a lot better for him than Claudio. Mm-hmm. But you couldn't do that twice.
Yes, I agree.
It makes Okada feel a bit weak as well.
I would say so, yeah. What this did make me very excited for, though, we are heading into C2 season soon. So that watching this got me really, really excited, particularly with the post-match as well, because Takeshita ran down to kind of like protect Carl, not to protect him from because Okada was beating him down, but just to like check up on his teammate and kind of have a bit of a stare down with Okada. And they announced during the match that it's going to be a fatal four-way at All Out. And there's a bunch of matches happening on Collision to confirm who's in that match. And Takeshita is one of those matches. So he's likely going to be in the 4-way. And instantly my mind went to, okay, we can build to the one-on-one match. Oh, actually, what you should do is put them in either side of the brackets for the C2, and then have them win their blocks, and that's your final. Is you build to the Okada Takeshita match.
It's pretty cool. For me, the Callis family need to figure out what they are.
100%.
Because Takeshita, he's gone for a month because of the G1. This is sort of his return last week on Rampage, but he's definitely a babyface here. Helping Fletcher, I'm going to get you Okada.
Yeah.
But they're with Don Callis. And Ospreay left the group just a month ago because the group was being too heelish. Or maybe it was longer than a month ago. Yeah,
I agree. I think we I feel like this faction's almost run its course a little bit. I think it's ready for them to sort of all move on, particularly with Fletcher and actually with Takeshita as well. I wouldn't mind just Don Callis and Takeshita staying together as an act, just as a manager and wrestler. The thing that actually kind of really excites me about the Takeshita thing is from you and I doing WrestleTalk Extra, when we're doing our breakup of the Shield series, we go through the Observers and the Figure Fours and things like that from the time. And they were doing write-ups about Takeshita in 2014, about him and Omega joining DDT. And a lot of the Japanese press and a lot of people that saw Takeshita in that point said, oh, he's the next Okada. Yeah. He's the next Kazuchika Okada because he's so good. He is like very tall and he's got the same style build. And here we are 10 years later and we're now building towards a match between those two.
Patreon.com/WrestleTalk. It's where you can get that great WrestleTalk Extra series. After that, we got the Swerve Nana house segment. Whose house? Swerve's house. Legally, he bought it. Then we got Jamie Hayter beating Robyn Renegade with Saraya and Harley Cameron watching backstage.
Well, actually, I actually turned around to look at it. They were cranking their necks to watch this. I've written here like they're in 2019 WWE.
Why is AEW?
I don't know.
Why are parts of AEW becoming the worst bit of WWE?
I don't know. Because when this company first started, they did a backstage segment making fun of wrestlers doing this, of standing facing the camera but craning their necks to look at the screen behind them. Remember the Jacksons did it? Yeah. And now they're just doing that.
Hayter looked awesome in this match and absolutely destroyed Robyn Renegade, who I thought in the brief bit of offense she did get also looked really good.
Yeah.
So good squash. We got a recap of Roderick Strong's foot being on the ropes from last week in that 8-man or 6-man.
8-man.
And Adam Pearce walks in and he says something, and Hook comes in with him, challenges for the FTW belt right now, and Strong says, no, I'll tell you when the match is.
Yeah, so CD was there to say, look, I know your foot was under the rope, but the referee made their call. That's just the way it is. But we will grant you an FTW championship match, even though it is a belt that's not recognized by AEW. And Hook walked up to be like, we'll do it now. And Shadow was like, no, I'll do it when I want to do it.
Yeah.
Which apparently is not the pay-per-view.
Then we got Moxley. Excalibur's running down the card, and it cuts to the back. And Marina Shafir and John Moxley have appeared. And, of course, they just punch a couple of goons. And they walk past the Elite. And Mox says to Jack Perry, I don't care what they say, you're a sweet kid, which is incredibly interesting considering what Perry just did to Bryan Danielson last week. Mm-hmm. And Danielson and Perry are fighting for the AEW World Championship.
So we'll talk about this now, because the Blackpool Combat Club are in action on this show. And I thought, it's weird that they're not talking about the Mox thing. But there was a moment on commentary when Excalibur said, what are your thoughts on Moxley? Oh, and Pac, aligning himself with the Combat Club. And Danielson did not answer the Moxley question at all. He almost skipped over it and just talked about Pac. And I don't know if that was intentional or whether we aren't really going to dive into this Combat Club split with Mox.
You have to, though.
Well, I think
and it also feels like they're building a feud with them.
Certainly, well, I think they're certainly doing with the Elite and the Combat Club, 100%. Like, I think they started that when we did the draw in Cardiff.
Yeah. But, like, if you add Mox and whatever he's doing, I'll carry on because then Mox came out. He's got his new music that you can't dance to. And he asks if Darby Allin is out there, said he beat the piss out of Darby years ago and he always respected Darby for that. He just wants to talk and then he walked out. So again, very mysterious, but it feels like Moxley's trying to recruit Darby Allin to his faction.
Yeah.
So that means in 2 weeks, he has said, you're a sweet kid to Jack Perry, who is Danielson's next world title challenger, and he's trying to recruit Darby Allin, who is the next challenger after that to Danielson.
I did not pick up on that, but you're completely right. I just thought it was because of they got a bit of history together, and like he was like, you're doing everything, you put your body on the line for this sport that I just love so much, and he almost like caught himself to be like how much he loves professional wrestling, and like you go to so many like lengths for this sport that we are so fortunate to be a part of. I had not even picked up on, he's the next challenger to Danielson's title.
And last week, Moxley said, this isn't your company anymore. And then he goes up to the Elite backstage here and has a nice, not nice, it was very threatening, but a sort of collaborative interaction with the Elite. Like that says to me, Moxley is making his own faction, and it is definitely more Elite leaning than it is babyface Tony Schiavone, Tony Khan leaning.
I would agree. Or maybe there could be a third faction in this war as to who's controlling the company.
Yeah. Is that still a storyline?
Well, CD's still there, but Tony Khan did make a match official later.
Audio description. Ollie just bit his fist in rage.
Every time I feel like we talk about Tony Khan, Christopher Daniels, and the Elite, we need a little clip of Mike Tenay running down the rules for a match. It's really quite simple.
Jericho is backstage. I actually really like this. He's got an interview, I think it was with Renee.
It was.
And he's talking about when Orange Cassidy ruined Jericho's $7,000 jacket 4 years ago. They play a clip of it. And then Cassidy walks in and says, well, if you beat me on Friday, Brian Keith, I'll pay Jericho $7,000. And Jericho's face was trying to maintain the hey guys smile, but you could see it just getting more and more angry.
Because he wasn't acknowledging that Jericho was there. He actually walked in front of Chris Jericho, so Jericho couldn't be seen on camera anymore, and just addressed Brian Keith. And it was like, oh, if you see Jericho, let him know that I'll pay him back.
So I must say, I reviewed Raw for the first time in 2 years on Tuesday. I've been watching Raw, but I haven't been reviewing Raw, which means, you sort of don't have the same eye on it. It's much more enjoyable when you don't review shows. I knew everything that was going on all the time, with clips and recaps and commentators filling me in. It is far beyond, like, how WWE treats new WWE, how they treat their continuity and their focus on their storylines. It is so far beyond AEW.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly better than it once was. I don't know if I would say that it is better in terms of continuity, but it is certainly better than it once was.
Maybe continuity is the wrong word to use.
Yeah.
I mean, just like how they play clips of what happened last week and how
right,
they...
Sorry. Yeah, as if okay, sorry. If I'm understanding you now. As if you're like a new viewer to the show.
Yeah.
Right. Oh.
Even a frequent viewer.
Yeah.
And they just remind you of these
reminder.
Important plot points that happen.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. I think that's actually is one of WWE's great strengths, is that they have the Stan Lee approach of every comic book is someone's first comic book. And like every episode of Raw could feel like someone's first episode of Raw. And Dynamite, I even go back to 2019 and 2020, have always been quite bad at that. They always assumed, we used to talk about this a lot, always assumed you're watching Being the Elite.
Yeah, or New Japan.
Or New Japan, or they assume you're watching Dark and Dark Elevation. Yeah. They assume you watch everything. I think they are good at showing recaps, but they also are relying on you to just know a lot of stuff, a lot of pre-wrestling history.
Well, the reason I bring it up here is because they played the clip of Jericho's jacket getting ruined.
I'd forgotten about that angle.
Well, but I think that's the benchmark. They're like, it happened 3 years ago. That's the time we'll play a clip. But they wouldn't do it for last week or 2 weeks ago. After that, we got Mariah May versus Nyla Rose. I thought Mariah was pretty funny in this match as sort of the arrogant heel, tries to sneak round Nyla a few times, but just gets caught out. Mariah falls to the outside and feigns some injury, speaks to the ref. It was to sucker Nyla in, takes her out on the steel steps. When Nyla gets back in, Storm Zero, Mariah wins.
Yeah. Good match.
Yeah, decent match. I always like Nyla Rose. She's a good contender in these.
I agree, and I thought this was a better showing from Mariah May than what we got in the angle last week, which I don't think got over at all. But I do think 2 weeks after winning that belt, her not having a challenger for the Women's World Championship, I'm not speaking just for All Out, but just setting up who is the next contender for Mariah May, the Women's World Champion, I think is insane.
It feels like they're still. The next feud is Toni Storm again, but she's off with injury for a month.
Yeah.
Or she'll be out after All Out. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not saying that's the right way. I'm just saying that's what I think they're doing. Then we got a video package of Deonna Purrazzo where she talks, it's like, I'm a virtuosa. I'm going to make new art. Blah, blah, blah. I've got a match against Shida on Collision. I'm like, you're going to lose that match.
Yeah, 100%.
Why are you getting a video package?
So that when Shida beats her, it feels like bigger.
Yeah, so this video package was to build up Shida, not Deonna Purrazzo.
Could be.
Because Shida can then get built up to lose it all out.
To Mercedes Moné, who is the highest paid person.
Mercedes is out next. She cuts an in-ring promo on Shida, and she's sort of dressed in old Shida-style entrance attire.
I mean, so speaking of like showing your audience and like giving them some context and stuff, they showed clips of her match against Watanabe. So, like, I think I think actually AEW are all right at kind of giving you some context for a lot of things. I didn't need to show those clips, but I think showing those clips to show you how important this belt is and what she is doing with that belt.
Shida appears on the Tron in a suit, black suit with a red shirt, and she rips it off to reveal her Ace t-shirt underneath. And then Adam Pearce walks in and says, Camille's banned from ringside at All Out.
I mean, it certainly didn't help Britt Baker.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is like, I mean, hey, okay, the crowd popped.
Yeah.
So it worked. It worked for this audience, not this audience sitting at home watching it and making his notes, but it worked for the audience in the building.
And then Shida said, "Sayonara, bitch." Oh, big promo. So that to AEW's credit, that was 2 women's matches, a women's video package, and an in-ring women's segment.
I was listening to a podcast that was talking about this recently, where it was like, you can pinpoint the moment when Pepperman leaves WWE, that women's segments drop off on WWE TV.
And then we get the Mercedes title celebration from last week.
And then we get, because it then ties into AEW getting much more women's segments and women's storylines over on Dynamite. And it probably is. It's the Pepperman effect.
Yeah.
Like whether they're good or not is a different conversation. But the lack of them in WWE and the lack of focus on the women's division in WWE has just, it's almost like, you can pinpoint the moment when she left.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, isn't it? You bring in Mercedes, so you're like, okay, that's expensive. We should focus on this division more. But saying you're going to focus on a division more is different from actually focusing on it. If you bring in someone to lead that charge specifically, which Pepperman presumably is, makes sense that elevates. Then we get the Jack Perry promo backstage with the Bucks. He speaks about how he built himself up, and the Bucks said they're going to do anything to make sure the world title goes to the Elite.
Well, it's about time they had that bit of focus.
This was to set up the conglomeration of Mark Briscoe and Kyle O'Reilly, with Will Ospreay taking on the Blackpool Combat Club, which is now definitely PAC, Claudio and Yuta, the trios champions.
Yeah, crowd was super into Ospreay and PAC.
This was a great match.
Yeah,
this was
great.
so good.
Yeah.
PAC and Ospreay get in the ring ahead of their all-out match on Saturday. Danielson made that mistake. He said Sunday, and that got a holy S-word chant.
This was the 6-man action I like to see on Dynamite.
Yeah, it was great.
It's one of those rare matches that happens within pro wrestling where the picture-in-picture's worth watching as well. It wasn't just rest holds or beating someone down and then doing a rest hold and then tagging someone in so they can do a beatdown and put in a rest hold. This was actually just really good. Because I tend to just, forward 5, and because you can tell when they go to a new camera, like there's a specific camera shot they go to let you know they're coming back from break. So if you skip 5, you can see that. I was like, okay, cool. I'm now out of the ad break. But I was skipping through some of this, and I was like, I'm actually going to skip back because this looks like it's really good, and it was awesome. Blackpool
Combat Club, I think, worked slightly heel. Just for the purpose of the match, not that they're a heel act, but it is more face versus face. Claudio would cut off any Ospreay saves, and they worked over Orange Cassidy. Ospreay and PAC start brawling to the back, and Ospreay does a dive off the stage onto Pac. And in the ring, Kyle and Orange and Yuta and Claudio are wrestling. And
giant swing.
Yeah.
So Claudio fights out the guillotine, hits the uppercut, then it does the giant swing, and Yuta does the punctuation mark to get the win.
there was a moment when Danielson said on commentary that Kyle O'Reilly would have been a great fit in Blackpool Combat Club.
Yeah.
And I think Excalibur said, there's still time. Like, you just added Pac. But wow, that would have been a good fit.
It would have been a good fit, yeah. But this is also in the match where they were like, what's going on with Mox? And he didn't answer it.
Danielson came down to pose with the Blackpool Combat Club when they won afterwards. And the Elite jumped them all. And Blackpool Combat Club get the upper hand. And Perry is pulled out of the ring before Danielson steps him to death.
Yeah.
And that's when Claudio tells the Elite they just made the biggest mistake of their life. And they challenge them for a tag team title match at All Out.
Yeah. And then Danielson grabs the microphone and said, Jack, you're going to get your effing head kicked in.
Oh, he's enjoying himself, isn't he?
He is. And I believe him.
And then it cuts backstage and Pac and Ospreay are fighting and Pac hits a brainbuster on the production crates and Ospreay sells it brilliantly by twitching with his neck.
Very good match. Very good angles to set up to do 3 matches for the pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got the awesome segment at the end of the show. I thought this was a really, really good episode of Dynamite. A very good go-home show. Really got him looking up and down the card. There's only 2 things on here. It's Hayter and Renegade and the Mariah May match are the only things not done to build stuff for All Out.
Yeah. Really good episode. Let's give a big thank you to our Patreons before we get into our final, our final Omega Chats. If you go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk, you can get loads of exclusive content like After Dark podcast, exclusive Survival series. We had an exclusive TLC go live a couple of weeks ago. We've got an exclusive 3 count going up soon. And of course, mine and Luke's WrestleTalk Extra series. There's like 70 episodes in the archive that you can get. But also, we have our current arc on video, which is Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle in TNA.
Oh, muy buen.
4 hours an episode. So we do need your support to keep making all these shows and everything. So please do go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk. And if you donate at this tier, you get a shout out on the show and a wrestling nickname. So thank you, the Balding Brummie, Brett Linforth.
Big Jiggy, Josh Martin.
The Prettiest Pirate, DAM.
The Pinnacle of Success, Luke Kelly.
Abominable, Michael Abbott.
King of the Conquest, Stephen Mullenix.
Where there's a will, there's a Will Campbell.
The Machine Gun, Alex Anderson.
Go Ace, the Ace of Spades, Adrian Santil.
Hitman Malcolm.
The Cleaner, Kenny Shah.
And lastly, for this Hall of Fame class, on the 5th of September 2024, the British Bulldog, Philip Boyd J. Smith Jr.
Thank you very much, all of you.
Appreciate every single one of you. Patreon.com/WrestleTalk.
Right, our last call for the Omega Chats, WrestleTalk.com/support. Space Viking says Swerve cutting a promo on Hangman's Baby was one hell of a canon event. Lol. Aaron Hamrahan says, so when Swerve bought his house, I said, Hangman gonna burn it down. I said it should be cool. And then it actually happened, was absolutely incredible. Hangman talking so calmly while being so intense. Swerve crying really added to it. Excited for All Out?
I'm excited for that match.
Yeah. That is like, it'd be a good show, but that match is so far beyond anything else.
I really do think there's only a certain amount of hype you can create with 2 weeks of build.
Yeah. Ben, man, maybe I should be a pro wrestler. You can get away with arson, trespassing, burglary, battery, discrimination, hate speech, kidnapping, murder, fraud, jaywalking, vehicular assault, regular assault, and other stuff I'm probably forgetting.
Yeah.
I'm just Marcus. Hello, guys.
Seth Rollins tore a man's eye out.
Hello, guys. It's been a while since I last chatted, but had to. Hangman literally committed arson and gave us the coolest vigil in a long time for wrestling fans. That moment and that promo was intense, and oh boy, I'm afraid of what they'll do in a cage.
A lights out. I can't wait.
Do you know what it kind of reminds me of visually? Is when Randy Orton burnt down Bray Wyatt's compound. But didn't he also then rub the dirt over his body?
Yeah.
And made it weird?
Well, wasn't that he had to find... was that the Crucix one? Or was that an Undertaker one where you had to go find the Crucix?
I think there was something about that in Sister Abigail.
Yeah, I feel like it is in the Randy Orton Bray Wyatt thing. Or maybe I'm thinking of a different one where you have to go and rub the mud.
Harry Potter. You're thinking of Harry Potter.
Is that? I don't know, I've never read it.
The Crew 6 stuff. Double.
Is that the one with the ring?
Real Double J says, love Swerve and Hangman. Such chemistry in wrestling matchups is what makes me a fan. Hopefully this won't end up where the last house being burnt down went in wrestling. We don't need another House of Horrors match at Full Gear.
I'm thinking of MVP versus it's King Booker versus The Undertaker. And King Booker was told by the voodoo witch doctor that he had to go and rub dirt from a grave or something in order to protect himself from The Undertaker's magic.
Yeah. That's from a 3 count. The derpiest of derps says, I think this burning house might be the greatest go-home angle in the history of Dynamite.
Wow.
So much poetic vengeance in burning down Swerve's house, and hot damn, the picture of Hangman drinking the whiskey while the house is engulfed looks amazing.
It's genuinely that is such a shareable image, and yeah, it's so cool.
It's top tier. It's got to be top 3. Yeah. The only other one I can think of off the top of my head is Cody and Brandy's arms reaching out for each other after the Dark Order Mr. Brody Lee beatdown.
Yeah.
Bobby G. Hey guys, great episode of Dynamite last night, and the Swerve Hangman feud is, to me, the best wrestling feud of the year.
Yeah.
Future TLC idea for your show, list of greatest feuds of 2024. Thank you for all your content. Jam that jam.
That is a fun one, actually, for an end of year one.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that a lot. I'm still really into this Punk Drew feud, but man, this Swerve Hangman one. I think it's only in terms of AEW. I think it's this and Storm and May have been my feuds of the year.
Julia Mendoza started watching Dynamite weekly since the final of the Owen, and damn, this is really good. And 2 questions for y'all. 1, who burned it better, Randy or Hangman? Hangman. 2, what's your favourite near fall in any match? Personally, Brett kicking out of the perfect plex.
The best near fall of all time is Brock Lesnar kicking out of the Psycho knee at the Survivor Series match he has with Bryan Danielson after Danielson low blows him. It's such a late kick out. It's like perfect. But the actual correct answer to this is Omega kicking out a 1 after the knees, the golden trigger.
God, that's so good. I would add Undertaker Triple H 2.
Yes.
After the tombstone and Triple H scurries back like...
Yeah. And Shawn Michaels just starts freaking out. That is such a good shout.
Tyler from Jersey. They should have a video of Hangman getting arrested, staring blankly at the camera. Then at All Out should have him getting booked. But... breaking out and escaping to the pay-per-view. Maybe wanted posters at the arena. Good merchandise idea. Hangman wanted by police.
That's got real Full Gear energy to it.
Yeah, it fits with the cowboy vibes. He should come in a police cordon, though.
Yeah, brought out, handcuffs, being he's being let out just for this, and then we've got to take him back to the station.
Yeah. Some of the boys have got a bet on. Justin Anzaludua, member for 37 months in a row. The Hangman Swerve match on Saturday will be the deciding factor for AEW's greatest feud of all time. It's either Hangman Swerve or MJF Punk.
You love that.
Well, I was thinking this today. I think, that they need to... I don't think Hangman Swerve will ever finish, but I feel like MJF and Punk had another chapter to tell, and they'll never get to tell that chapter. It's like Ciampa and Gargano. They never really got to properly wrap up their last third because of injury and call-ups and nonsense. But Swerve and Hangman, beat for beat, has been tight.
It's been so great.
Richie R. Hi guys, bit late to the stream, but I just had to say that the Hangman segment might be one of the best in all of Dynamite history. The visual of Hangman sitting outside Swerve's house while the fire burns in the background was genuinely perfect.
Canaran P1 here said, man, this episode was certainly eventful. Really loved the opener and the main event. I hope Fletcher finally gets a world championship reign one day. Who else do you think should be world champion one day? Keep up the great work, lads.
Will Ospreay.
Yeah, Will. Jack.
He doesn't do it for me. But yeah.
When Gwellian has been a member for 35 months in a row, just says AEW, AEW, AEW. Nick Corvello said, hey guys, one of my favorite parts about Shida's video promo was when Shida ripped her dress shirt open, Supergirl style, to reveal her new t-shirt. I found it badass and adorable. She also tweeted about the new merch after Dynamite's top merch plug.
Top merch.
Jay here said, I was at the show last night. It was an amazing show despite the arena being nearly half empty. One of my favorite parts was after the show. Bryan Danielson came out with his final countdown entrance, talked to the crowd and did some fun spots. Retirement tour?
Yeah.
That's what he's on at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Andy here said, Luke bringing up the C2 makes me think about who we can expect in it. Claudio for sure, Takeshita for sure, Will Ospreay. Who are you guys thinking about being in the tournament, and how would you feel about a draw-heavy tournament because of the stiff competition?
I don't like draw heavies, but definitely use some draws in there because there weren't that many draws last year.
And there was only one?
Yeah.
And it was right at the end.
But I'm always a big fan of just loading it up with all your top talent.
It should be the top guys in the company.
And if you have someone who isn't a tippity top guy, they have to go through some qualifying matches to be a wild card or unseeded player.
I'd like to see Mox in this year's. Putting Mox in this year's C2 I think would be really great. Actually, I'd love to see Danielson in it. This whole idea of like, I'm not going to be wrestling as much. You're in the C2 now. Nahali has been a member for 5 months in a row. Said, hi guys, I have an assignment to cover for the evolution of games. Any tips if possible? I can send you guys some research. It could be a video.
Oh, that's a cool idea. That sounds like a big video. Any tips? Any tips to cover the evolution of games?
Put all your focus on the 90s because it's A, the most interesting time, but B, actually, like in all seriousness, so I did a podcast recently about a 90s UK video game show. It started in 91 and it ended in 1998, January of 1998. So it starts in January of 91, ends in January of 98, and that's a 7-year stretch. The first set of challenges in that are around Super Mario Brothers 3. It's about the launch of the Super Nintendo. Like, it is Amiga era. It is still Commodore era here in the UK. The final challenge in episode 7, January, is Tekken 3. Like, you want to talk about a journey, a 7-year leap from Super Mario Brothers 3 on the NES to Tekken 3 in the arcades. That is a huge leap across just 7 years in terms of evolution and releases and stuff. So it is such a short window of time when so much in the video game era changes.
Maybe that's a tip. It depends on what your assignment is, but don't cover the whole evolution of games because you'll just be doing bullet points, really.
Yeah.
But find a really interesting era and cover that more in depth.
Yeah.
But that's all we've got time for today. Let's find out the final results of the poll.
Sure can. It is 86% thumbs up.
Oh, it's strong.
10% thumbs in the middle. I think that's one of the strong performances we've had for Dynamite for a while.
Definitely. Please do go and check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. There's loads more Ollie and Luke chatting stuff over there, and Survival Series, and 3 Count, and TLC as well. But for now, I've been Ollie Davis. This has been Luke Owen. Jam that jam.
Jam that jam.